Hi, Leila from Merlot. Welcome to Designing an Aran Sweater, Lesson 1. Today's lesson is all about completing the calculations so that we can do the back of the sweater. Let's get started. The knitting project always starts with a swatch. In this particular case, the swatch should be done in whatever design element you're using in your Aran sweater. Go ahead and do a repeat. You'll know how many stitches you've cast on and how many rows you've done following your chart. So then it's just a simple case of measuring to get your stitch gauge and measuring to get your row gauge. If you're unsure, stop by the Designing a Round Yoke Sweater Lesson 1 where I go into detail more about how to deal with the swatch. Aran sweaters are typically done in pieces, and you'll start with the back. The widest part of your sweater is going to be within your bust line. When it comes to where you're going to be casting on your project, this area will be 90% of what your bust line measured. This number also must be divisible by 4 so that you can do a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. Once you have the number of stitches that you're going to have at the bust line, it's time to start thinking about the design elements that you would like to use in your sweater. I've included a chart that would have the design elements that I've used in this sweater with some cables. Always make sure that when you're choosing a design element, you put a purl stitch in between so that you separate those elements. There's many different styles of cables that you can use, or diamond patterns, etc. Go ahead and figure out which ones you would like to use. Then, using your stitch count from your bust line, determine how can I center those. For myself, the chart that I've included, I knit through once using 60 stitches and then did a partial repeat of 41 stitches. I still had 26 unaccounted for stitches, so I put 13 seed stitches on either side of the back of the sweater. A seed stitch or purl stitches are a good way to fill a gap where needed. Once you have your ribbing completed, you're going to do your increases that you will need for the number of stitches required for your bust line. Do those increases on the last front row of your ribbing. That way, the first row of your chart is done at the back where you're going to set yourself up for the design element that you have chose to do. Once the ribbing and the increases are done and you've started into your pattern, you're going to continue to knit right up to where you want the armhole to begin. Now it's time to do some calculations to figure out how we are going to do the armholes. The first calculation is going to be, what is your shoulder seam to seam number multiplied by your stitch count. Then we're going to take the number of stitches that we had at the bust minus the number of stitches that you'll need to go from shoulder to shoulder, and that tells us how much we have left over to do the armholes within. So for example, my bust had 127 stitches. I need 101 stitches at the top. That means I've got 26 stitches left. I will be eliminating 13 per side for my armholes. The first section of the armhole will have a horizontal piece. This is 25% of the overall number of stitches to eliminate within the armhole. For me, I did 3 stitches here as I'm eliminating 13. I will be doing 3 stitch cast off twice. So once for this side, once for that side. Then I will be eliminating or casting off 1 stitch 10 times on each side. That will eliminate my 13. So that will give me that horizontal piece that's under the arm, and then a nice gradual curve. And then I will continue to knit straight up until I get to the depth that I wanted for my armhole, or the measurement from the hem to your shoulder length of the sample sweater. When it comes to shaping the shoulder, we know how many stitches we have across from shoulder to shoulder, minus the number of stitches that you're going to want for your neck. Divide that number by 2. I had 101 stitches across for shoulder to shoulder. The width of my neck, 49 stitches. So 101 minus the 49, I've got 52 stitches. Divide by 2, that means 26 is coming off and will be shaped within the shoulder area. When we look at a shoulder, we can see, if we laid a straight edge, we can see that your shoulder doesn't come out straight. Placing a straight edge from the top of the armhole across, then measuring up direct at the neckline. Multiply this by your row gauge so you know how many rows do I need at the neck versus at the seam of the shoulder. For myself, this measured an inch. My row gauge is 7.05, so I have essentially 7 rows that I need at the neckline. My neck is going to be the last cast off row that I do. So now that means 7 minus that 1. I have 6 rows in which I can complete this area. I'm casting off on each side, so that means my 6 rows, I have 3 rows per side to eliminate these stitches and to fill this gap. I'm going to be doing 3 sets of casts off. So 26 divided by those 3 sets gets me close to 8 stitches. So I'm going to do 8 stitches cast off, 8 stitches cast off, 10 stitches cast off. That will fill in this area, provide me with a nice gentle slope using the 26 stitches that I have to eliminate over the shoulder area. Go ahead and fill in the calculations on the worksheet, and you will have all the information done to complete the back of your sweater.